Hello again. This is Andy Nicol here, the course tutor for the Perfectly Spoken Advanced course. And today we have lesson 19 in the course. Lesson 19 is on the subject of commonly confused words. So we're going to look at words which appear similar but have very different meanings. Some of them might be false friends in other languages, that is, words which are similar to a word in another language but which have different meanings and so on. So this is, as I say, a C1 lesson, IELTS 7.5 if you are more familiar with the IELTS scale. So we're going to look at commonly confused words and their meanings, including affect and effect, specially versus especially, stationary and stationary, and principle and principle. Okay, the same sounds but different meanings, what we call homophones. Okay, so commonly confused words then. The first one I want to look at, or first ones rather, I want to look at is actually versus currently. I teach in Catalonia in Spain, and actually is very similar to actualmente in Spanish or actualment in Catalan, but with a different meaning. Actually means in fact or really, whereas currently means at the present time or at this moment. Okay, so have a look at these sentences and try to decide which is the correct word to complete each sentence. So the first one, they are something staying with their parents until they can afford a house of their own. So they're staying with their parents just now until they can afford a house of their own. So the meaning of just now or at the moment, the word is currently. B, A, is that his sister over there? No, it's his girlfriend. In reality, it's his girlfriend. Here is actually. Actually, it's his girlfriend. Okay, so let's move on. Now, these are words which even for English speakers, native English speakers, sometimes cause a bit of confusion. You have the word affect and effect. Affect is a verb and it means to act on or produce a change in something. It's a verb, okay? Whereas effect is the noun and it means something which is caused or produced by some agency, a result, etc. Okay, so effect is what happens as a result of being affected by something, okay? So affect's the verb, effect is the noun. You'll be familiar with special effects in cinema, where they use CGI, computer-generated images and so on. So let's have a look at the two sentences. How does the government's new legislation is laws, etc., something new, and what is the principle something of the new legislation? So the first one, are we looking for a noun or an adjective, a verb, sorry. And of course it's a verb, so the word we're looking for is affect, and B, what is the principal effect of the new legislation? It's the noun, okay? I mean, it might be a government law to ban smoking in public or whatever. How does it affect you? What effect does it have on you with the noun? Okay, next one. Historic and historical. Historic refers to an event which is very important or significant in history, whereas historical simply means related to or pertaining to history, about history. Okay? But the important thing is historic is an important event, a landmark or an important event. So here we have two sentences. We've got a picture of Football Club Barcelona there, winning the Champions League in 2015. Okay, so you've got the two sentences. Barcelona won a something victory in the Champions League in 2015. And B, I am a big fan of something novels such as The Pillars of the Earth and The Physician. So if you'd like to take a moment and think about it. The first one, Barcelona won well, here we want to say an important, significant victory. And of course, it's historic. Whereas B, we are suggesting that these novels are about history. They're related to history. It's historical novels. Pillars of the Earth, obviously written by Ken Follett, an international bestseller, and The Physician by Noah Gordon, I think also an international bestseller. Okay, so historic, meaning significant or important, historical, just simply about history or related to history. Okay, here are another two words which are very similar in appearance, beside and besides. Beside is a preposition which means next to. There's a song my grandmother used to sing, oh, I do like to be beside the seaside, meaning she liked to go on holiday to the beach or whatever. Beside means next to. And then besides is an adverb which means in addition or furthermore. It's slightly less formal than in addition or furthermore. So typically used in articles rather than formal writing like essays. But besides means to add an additional point and to support your argument. Okay, so here we go. You've got a lovely picture of a waterfront next to a river with some houses around it. And the new house is blank the waterfront. And sentence B, I want to go home. I'm really tired and I'm a bit hungry. Well, the first one we mean next to, obviously. And in the second one, we want to say, and not only am I tired, but I'm also a bit hungry. So in addition, so the first one is beside, and the second, besides. Okay, here's another pair. Again, this causes learners a lot of difficulty. Especially is used generally to mean for a particular purpose, something which is specifically done for a particular purpose. Especially means particularly, principally, above all, more than anything. Okay? So, here we go. There's a lovely picture of the Scottish Highlands. This is the Isle of Skye, in fact, and this is the Old Man of Storr. It's a strange geological formation on the Isle of Skye. Beautiful island. If you ever get the chance to, please go and visit it. But it does rain a lot. So you've got this man or a woman, I'm not sure, covered up in a sort of a raincoat. And it says it rains a lot in Scotland and then in spring. And then the second sentence, Pavarotti had the chair, something made for him. Okay, I think that's actually true in terms of when he was alive in aeroplanes. If he had to travel on a plane, they had to have sort of two seats for, because he was a big man. So it rains a lot in Scotland, more than anything. Above all, in spring, we would like to say especially. And then Pavarotti had the chair specially made for him. Okay, it was a unique chair just made for him, specially made. Okay. Now we've got two words, ashamed and embarrassed. Ashamed is used to describe how you feel when you've done something morally wrong. The important thing is it's considered morally wrong or socially unacceptable. You may have stolen something, lied, cheated in some way. And embarrassed, I'm going to disappear now so you can see this. describes a feeling of discomfort or self-consciousness because you can't do something, you've done something wrong. You may turn bright red as a result of it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's morally unacceptable or it's considered terrible what you have done. You just feel bad about it. Okay, so here are some examples. You've got a man singing there. It says, my husband got drunk and started singing at the wedding. This happens a lot in Scotland, where I'm from. People love weddings, having a few whiskies and then maybe starting singing. And I felt so. And then the second one, what? You cheated in the maths exam? You should be of yourself. So the first one is something which is, well, not morally unacceptable or whatever, you feel a bit, oh my God, I wish you wouldn't do that, is I felt so embarrassed. Whereas the second one, you should feel ashamed of yourself. It's a terrible thing to do, to cheat in an exam. Well, obviously lots of people do it, but yes, it's considered morally unacceptable usually. Okay. Now we've got desert and dessert. Notice the change in the pronunciation. Desert, the stress is on the first syllable, and dessert, the stress is on the second syllable. So a desert describes a region which is really arid because of lack of rainfall and which supports very little vegetation. For example, the Sahara Desert or the Kalahari Desert or whatever. And the dessert, again, I'm going to disappear here, as cake, pie, fruit, pudding, ice cream, served as a final course of a meal. Okay? Dessert. So, here we go with the sentences this time. You've got a lovely picture of some cacti, is the plural, of cactus. The cactus is one of a few plants which thrives in the something. Thrives means flourishes, is able to live without any problems and to grow and develop, to thrive. And the other, what would you like for blank? I think I'll have the apple crumble. Apple crumble is like you take apple and you boil it with sugar and then it's coated with sort of breadcrumb type coating. It's very traditional, at least in the UK. So the first one, obviously, is the cactus grows in the desert. The desert. And what would you like for dessert, for pudding? I think I'll have the apple crumble. Okay, moving on. Deny versus refuse. Deny is a verb which means to not admit to something. Okay. Whereas refuse is a verb which means to not agree to do something. You refuse to do something means you don't agree to do it. You say, no, I'm not going to do that. Okay, so here's two sentences. We've got a picture here of a bouncer. So that should say at the bouncer at the nightclub to let me in. He said, I can't come in. And something stealing the chocolate bar from the local supermarket. So the first one, he said, no, you can't come in. Say no. You refuse to let someone in. He refused to let me in. And the second one, he said, I didn't do it. He refused to admit to it. He denies, or denied if it was in the past, stealing the chocolate bar from the local supermarket. He said, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. Okay, then we've got loose and lose. Notice the difference in the pronunciation of S here. In the first one, loose is a S sound. Loose, and the second lose is a Z sound. Lose, loose and lose. So loose is an adjective and it's the opposite of tight. Okay, so tight is like something you wear, it's tight jeans. Okay, whereas loose is like it doesn't It's not tight, it's the opposite of tight, okay? And lose is if you cannot find something, yes, from which you have the past lost. Did you lose your pencil, for example? And lose also in terms of not win. Do you think they will lose the next match, for example? Okay, so loose and lose. Let's look at some examples. You've got a lady in a car fumbling about in her bag. She's obviously can't find something. I often something my car keys. I'm such a scatterbrain. Scatterbrain means you're a very forgetful person. You're always forgetting things. And the second one is I like to wear something fitting clothes when at home. I like to be comfortable. Okay. So the first one is lose. Obviously, I often lose my car keys. I can't find them. I'm such a scatterbrain. And B, I like to wear loose fitting clothes when at home. I like to be comfortable. Loose. Okay, let's have another pair. These ones are very, very similar in appearance. You've got stationary with an A and stationary with an E. Pronunciation is the same. Stationary with an A means still, not moving. Stationary with an E, oops, sorry, there's an extra T in there, it should be just refers to writing materials, paper, pencils, etc. So let's have a look at some examples here. Okay, so we've got some pencils, paper, books there. He crashed his car into a something vehicle, and I've bought my daughter some beautiful something for when she goes back to school. Well, the first one, he crashed his car into a vehicle which wasn't moving at the time, stationary with an A. I bought my daughter some beautiful pens, pencils, paper, etc. Stationary for when she goes back to school. Okay, another one. Economic and economical. Economic, this is a dictionary definition, pertains to the production, distribution, and use of income, wealth, and commodities. Basically, the subject that you study at university, economics, economic theory, etc., etc. Things related to the economy. Economical, on the other hand, means cheap to use or not wasteful. Okay. So let's look at two examples and compare and contrast them. So you've got hybrid car in the picture. So A, sentence A, the present something policy of austerity has made life worse for most ordinary people. And the second, you should buy a hybrid car. They are far more something to run than petrol or diesel cars. So the first one is related to the economy. It's a type of policy to do with the economy, so it's economic. And the second, meaning cheaper or less wasteful, is economical. Okay, hybrid cars are more economical. You use less fuel and they're cheaper to run, apparently. Okay, let's move on. Principle versus principle. Principle with an A, again the pronunciation is identical here, is the most important thing. The most important thing is also in the United States the name of the head of a school, like high school. If you've seen High School Musical or any of these things, you'll have heard of the principle. And then principle with an LE is a fundamental rule or belief, a belief system that you have, set of ideas that you adhere to in your life, etc. So here are two sentences. It's a lovely picture of Westminster Bridge and the Houses of Parliament in London. So, as a matter of something, I refuse to cross picket lines, and the something function of Parliament is to examine legislation in detail and, where necessary, make amendments. So the first one, a matter of, it's your ethical beliefs. You refuse to cross picket lines. Picket lines are when workers go on strike. They refuse to work because they want to get higher wages, better conditions, or they're angry in some way about the way they've been treated in the workplace. They go on strike, and a picket line is the workers stand outside their place of work and try to stop other people going in to work. So as a matter of principle, I refuse to cross picket lines would be the answer. And then B, the main function of Parliament, or the most important function of Parliament, is to examine legislation and where necessary make amendments, is principle with an A. Okay, then we've got story and story. Again, pronunciation's identical. Story, EY, is a level of a building or a floor of a building. And story without the E is obviously a tale or account. Okay. So, two sentences here. You've got a man being interrogated by the police, asked all sorts of questions. Obviously, a crime has been committed. He's holding his head in his hand or trying to think here. And here are the two sentences. The police found it difficult to believe the suspect's something. Suspect is the person the police believe has committed a crime. And B, he lives on the top floor of a 20-something tower block. So the first one, story, is obviously S-T-O-R-Y, because it's his account, what he said happened. And the second, story, is the E-Y, because it's the floor of this tower block has 20 floors, 20 stories. Okay. Let's move on. Lay and lie. Lay is to put someone else or something in a horizontal position. Okay, horizontal like that. Lying down. Whereas lie is to put yourself in a horizontal position. Okay, lie obviously has other meanings, meaning not to tell the truth and so on, but we're focusing on this meaning of lay and lie. So you have a mother with her baby, and she's putting the baby to bed. And here are the two sentences. She's trying to something her baby down to sleep without waking her up. And B, I'm going to have something down on the couch. Couch is another word for sofa. Over there, and watch a bit of telly. Telly is an informal way of saying television or TV. Telly. Okay, so she's trying to, she's doing it to something else, in this case her baby. So here it's lay, to lay her baby down to sleep. And B, I'm going to have a lie down. I'm going to do it myself. Okay, lie down. So here are some sentences. Here's an example. Do you deny taking some money out of my purse without asking? Do you deny? Meaning, say, I didn't do it, okay? Not admit to it. So let's have a look at some more and see if you can complete the sentences. Waterloo in 1815, I think, was a something victory for the British against the French. It was significant, it was monumental, it was the end of the Napoleonic Wars, which resulted in Napoleon finally being exiled to, I can't remember if it was Elba or St. Helena was the last one. I think Elba. Anyway, so Waterloo was a significant, important, is historic victory for the British against the French. 3, he parked his car in a multi-car park. There's a car park with lots of different levels, multi-story. Number 4, scientists are worried about the long term of climate change, consequences, etc. Can you remember the word? And the answer is, of course, effects, long-term effects of climate change. Number 5, it is against my something, my beliefs, my values, to accept money in exchange for keeping quiet. So I think this is a wrong thing to do. It's against my principles with LE. Okay, here are some more. The car remained something at the traffic lights for some time. It didn't move. It was still, it remained still. It was stationary with an A. Stationary with an A, yes? Number 7, my jeans are so, they keep falling down. I need to get a new belt. Okay, so they're kind of always falling down. Opposite of tight, they are loose. Yes, remember the S sound here, loose, as opposed to lose, L-O-S-E. This is a Z sound. Okay, next one. My favorite something is pavlova. It's made with berries, usually raspberries, cream and meringue, which is made from egg whites. So my favorite, well, it's what you eat at the end of your meal, the last course of your meal, usually sweet, is a dessert. Dessert. Again, remember the pronunciation, stress on the second syllable, dessert. And it's a Z sound, dessert. Okay, number 9. The government, something to accept the terms of this agreement. For example, at the moment, the negotiations between Britain and the EU about Brexit, and the British government said, no, we are not going to accept that. Something to accept the terms, they refuse to accept the terms of the agreement. Or you could use the past tense, obviously, refused to accept the terms of the agreement. It's not clear from the sentence if it's present or past. And then finally, number 10, I accidentally wore odd socks. That means 2 different socks to work. I've never felt so, oh my God. Well, the answer is embarrassed. Not ashamed, because you haven't done anything morally wrong or socially unacceptable. It's just a bit silly. And people go laugh at you because you're wearing different socks. So you feel embarrassed. Okay. Well, that's all for today. In the next lesson, which is lesson 20 in the course, this will be, as always, a review lesson. And this is review 4, covering lessons 16 to 19. Okay, so this will include grammar. We'll look at hypothetical meaning with wish, if only, etc., and other uses of unreal past tenses, such as it's high time, I'd rather, and so on. We'll also be looking at the vocabulary of dependent prepositions, which we covered in lesson 17. And commonly confused words, as we've just looked at today, words such as especially, and so on. Well, I hope that you found today's lesson useful and you've worked out the difference between some of these words which can confuse learners. And I hope to see you in the next lesson, the review lesson, lesson 20. Take care and bye-bye for now.